Oh, yeah! Ladies and gentlemen!
Are you ready for your moment of bliss?
Because what Poppy wants, Poppy gets.
Yowie wowie! I don't even know if that's PG! Acknowledge me! Woo! Oh, you didn't know? Well, let me tell you something, brother!
Welcome to the most must-see WWE talk show in history. Welcome to
the Cream of the Crop Wrestling Podcast.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better! It's still real to me, damn it!
Hello and welcome to the bottom line of WWE Monday Night Raw, October 31st, 2022. You're listening to the Cream of the Crop Wrestling Podcast, the podcast the noisy neighbor next door continues to blare at all hours of the night. We are your Midnight Express of the program. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Rob. Please embrace the Kingdom of the Madness by be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Pat, are you ready for my word of the day?
Give it to me.
This show was F5. Triple H has had a rough couple weeks. I thought this one got it back on track.
Well, before we get started, we'd like to give a shout out to some of the Cream of the Crop Wrestling followers. Thank you to Midwest All-Star Wrestling, MAW, a wrestling promotion based out of Minnesota and Wisconsin. They have a lot of talent over there, especially in their champion, Paul Verk. So check them out and show them some love over at Midwest All-Star Wrestling. And shout-outs to everyone in our comments. Maybe we can start doing shout-outs and give personal shout-outs to the people who play along with us in the comments. We even have thoughts on a mailbag. So let us know what you think about that. But until then, while you sift through that Halloween candy, we hope you enjoy some wrestling with us. Because Monday, Fright Raw, you see what I did there, Rob? Monday, Fright Raw?
Great.
Because it's Halloween. Starts off, Monday Fright Raw starts off with our Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair, going one-on-one against the repackaged Nikki Cross. The match gets underway with Bianca overpowering Nikki before the crazy kicks in, that is, because Nikki Cross starts dishing out an offense of her own. At one point, Bianca's knee gets hung up in the ropes, and Nikki starts to target that knee. Bianca continues the rest of the match selling the hurt knee, and they continue proving to be an even match for each other. But then they're interrupted by Dakota Kai and Io Sky, who come down to the ring and distract the referee, while Bayley throws Bianca into the ring post on the outside. But then Nikki attacks Bayley and takes out the rest of Damage Control. Nikki gets back in the ring and takes a KOD from Bianca, who gets the pin. Before Bianca could celebrate this match, Bayley and Damage Control start to beat up Bianca, but are then stopped by the return of Asuka and Alexa Bliss. So let's break this down, Rob. Let's start with the match. Tell them what they need to know.
So the match was pretty good itself. It was a very standard, nice opener here. Quick pace. It was only about 10 minutes long, which was good. The crowd was into it. I love seeing Nikki Cross back as opposed to Nikki ASH, so that was good to see. My one downfall on this is I understand that she did interrupt the match last week with Belair and Bayley, but I would like to see when you bring a character back and re-debuting them, you have a lot of talent at NXT, or you have a lot of talent that can just be local or whatever. Like, I don't want to see a bunch of squash matches, but when you bring a new talent back like Nikki Cross, let her get some wins. Like, having her come back and then the very next week losing, I'm kind of like, not my favorite. But otherwise, solid match. I like how Nikki Cross shows no loyalty to anyone. She's going to beat up Bianca. She's going to beat up the baby faces. She's going to beat up Damage Control and all the, all the heels and the baddies on that. So I love that part of her character. The match for itself was another nice showing for Bianca Belair. The woman honestly can do no wrong. So that's kind of good to see. And I don't know where it's leading down the road. I think this was honestly just a giant match set up for what we are going to get later in the night.
So my two questions for you are, first question would be, what would you consider this as? Would you consider this win from Bianca a clean win?
No, it's still not a clean win. There were still shenanigans going on the outside with Damage Control. So we didn't get I would not say we got a perfectly clean win, because the only reason the KOD happened is because of the distraction.
Then my second question, who does crazy better, Nikki or Liv Morgan?
Oh, they're two different types of crazy. I'm going to give it to Nikki Cross. What do you think?
I agree with you on them being different types of crazy. I had to think about that for a second because I had to make sure it wasn't a double casting, more or less, of characters here.
I would say, like, when I think about it, like, Nikki Cross is just crazy all the time. Like, you know what you're going to get. She's like the biker chick you take home. But Liv Morgan on the other side is almost like split personality bipolar disorder, where one day she's like, if you live with her and she's like your wife or whatever, like you guys are having a wonderful dinner, playing Scrabble, having a great night, and then the next night she's like, all the lights have changed to a black light and she has a knife out and she's just like, you want to play a game? And you're like, oh shit, what's happening? So yeah, that's the two different characters in my book.
Well, coming up, we're going to see a sit down between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. But let's go backstage to Kathy Kelly standing by with Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Bianca Belair. Bianca is asked if she thinks she's finished with Nikki Cross, and she says for now, but things with Bayley are far from over. And then Alexa and Asuka challenge Dakota and Io to a championship match later tonight. What are your thoughts?
Kind of what I thought about earlier. I felt like Damage Control coming out there to the match was just to kind of set up a talking point for Bianca to be with Asuka and Alexa to set up the match for later. So I think the opening match was just a setup for the tag title match that they didn't advertise yet. So it was a fine promo, was what it was. A setup for the main event that they should have advertised already.
It wasn't too bad of a segment for me. The one thing I did notice here was we didn't have a goofy Asuka and we didn't have a playful Alexa Bliss here. They were pretty serious. Definitely some character development going on here, I think. And I like the change in attitude. Redevelopment. Yeah,
Can we say
that?
Redevelopment, yeah, going back to where they were, where they should have been.
Where they should have been, exactly. Well, let's jump on over to that sit down because it's time for Bobby Lashley to come face to face via video with Brock Lesnar. They are supposed to be on screen in separate areas, but Brock has decided not to show up. Bobby says Lesnar has been ducking him for years, and he's not surprised. He's going to expose him for who he really is, and that's a Bobby Lashley wannabe. But then Brock's music hits, and he comes down to the ring, and he cuts a good promo telling Bobby he didn't come to Texas for a sit-down. He came for a fight, and before he could finish, Bobby was on the Titantron, standing up and removing his microphone and coat to go down and start brawling with Brock. Security comes out, the WWE locker room comes out, even Triple H himself comes out to pull these two apart. And Trips starts saying this fight is off. Tells Lesnar there is no more fight at Crown Jewel. This fight is off. What do you think about this?
If they touch, the fight is off. That was the term. If they touch. So,
well, he technically did touch.
I liked it. He technically did. That part is true. That part is true. I liked a lot of this here. So, Bobby Lashley in a suit is just money. I love that look so much. Like, he just looks like $1 million. So that's a dude you can get behind that dude in a heartbeat. I love the idea of Lesnar not wanting to do a sit down and just go out there and just start a fight, because that feels like Lesnar, and especially right now with like Cowboy Brock. I love that. I just like that, especially in Texas. Like, Texas is probably like his home away from home, like not up in Canada killing moose. They've kind of done the pull apart thing for about 3 weeks straight now, so that part was getting a little old. The only big part that made a difference this time was Triple H coming out there. I do like that Triple H keeps his appearances on television a little bit more sparse, so when they do happen, they're going to feel a little bit special. Because I think the last time we saw him was just with Rey Mysterio on SmackDown a few weeks ago, but it was just for like a small role. But to see him come out there and actually take control, take the reins, I'm the boss kind of person, that was nice to see, and I hope we see it, but I don't want to see it often. I want to see it very sparse and only when absolutely necessary, like this moment. So that was good. Again, I don't think they did anything special to promote the match. You don't really need to promote this match very well. I'm excited to watch it. I think it was just a segment they had to put out there because it's the same segment we've seen for about 2 weeks now, to be honest with you.
At least we didn't get to see anybody be speared through a barricade.
Hey, there we go. Baby steps.
Well, while Papa H figures out how to discipline the Almighty and the Beast, we go to the ring for the second match of the night. Austin Theory versus Seth freaking Rollins. The match started with Seth soaking in the crowd's cheers and them singing his song. Seth used mind games to get the best of Austin Theory and eventually the best he would get because Theory kicks in high gear and they have a great trade-off of offense. Theory does a series of near falls, pulling every move he had out of the hat. But when he results to trying a pedigree, Seth Rollins reverses out of it and hits the stomp for the win. The crowd was chanting for Rollins the entire time of the match. But by the end, there were definitely a few chants for Austin Theory.
This was actually probably the best match we've had on Raw since Ciampa Lashley. Like, this was an excellent match that we had here, so I was very happy to see that. I was not expecting the heel versus heel match that we got. That kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I don't know if they're going for a Seth Rollins babyface turn here, or if it was just a moment where they're playing to the crowd. I can't see. I don't really know yet. I'm just gonna kind of wait and see on that one. But some of the spots in here, Austin Theory is a great worker. We got to see a little bit more of that last week with Mustafa Ali. But now that he got to do it with Rollins this week, that was a match that was worthy for pay-per-view. And I think it took Theory from the Money in the Bank. I think this match did more for Theory than it did for anyone. This match made him go from Money in the Bank was just handed to him kind of a chosen one dude to like, holy shit, like this dude can work. This dude put on a good match and he hung in there with Seth Rollins, like toe to toe, head to head, like everything on there. He was on par with that human being, which Seth right now is considered one of the best in the world. Like, let's be honest, this dude's on fire. So for me personally, this was the best match we've seen on Raw in months. This made Theory go from a laughingstock to a guy we need to take seriously. And then adding on top of it, I don't know if this leads more into a Mustafa Ali, Rollins, Theory kind of triple threat that's going on. I'm not real sure what's going on with that. I'm not going to speculate, but I definitely think in the end, Theory came out looking like $1 million, and it was great.
And my favorite part of the match was them doing Seth Rollins doing the mind games with Theory, kind of ducking his moves a little bit and soaking in that crowd. And another thing I want to mention is this is the second week in a row that we've seen Austin Theory have a good match.
You know what? We'll talk about it later for the spot of the night. But man, like that, blockbuster neck breaker that Theory did on Rollins was what a goddamn spot that was. Like Rollins just hit the enziguri, then all of a sudden, like Theory's just like, nope, blockbuster neck breaker, and went for a 2 count. Oh. Dude, that was great.
Well, let's keep it moving here because as we see our tribal chief arrive in the parking lot, we have breaking news that Bray Wyatt will be at Crown Jewel on Saturday. I gotta tell you, Rob, Halloween is scary enough. I'm glad he's going to be at Crown Jewel and we don't have to see that creepy Uncle Howdy tonight. I'm still having nightmares.
What if we're going to see Uncle Howdy at Crown Jewel, though?
Well, then I need to tell Miss Betty to schedule me for a therapy session next week. Let's go to the ring and put our ones in the air because the undisputed champion, Roman Reigns, is on Monday Night Raw and he's accompanied by Paul Heyman. He gets to the ring and before acknowledging the tribal chief, the crowd starts chanting Usi. And after being acknowledged, Roman assures everyone he's got Sammy and Jay out in the world working on becoming a little more Usi. He goes on to say that he's been hyping opponents for years, and the only thing that happens is they get to the match and they get smashed. So there's no way he's going to hype a match with a man that's an outsider who has had 2 matches. The tribal chief won't do that, but the wise man will. He hands the microphone to Paul Heyman, and Paul cuts a promo telling us despite having steel screws in his hand, and despite training with HBK, Logan Paul is going to get smashed by the tribal chief. And one thing in this world on the island of relevancy that Roman Reigns cannot tolerate is an outsider. And then the Miz's music hits. The Miz comes down to the ring and acknowledges his tribal chief and has a proposition for him. Since he knows Logan Paul better than anyone, he knows the right hand of steel is real. He trained Logan Paul, but he can help Roman, and in return, Roman can help The Miz with him who shall not be named. The tribal chief then says he doesn't get why everyone is talking about Logan Paul knocking him out. He then Superman punches The Miz, laying him out. And then he continues to say when they should be talking about him knocking Logan Paul out. What do you think about this promo?
Promo-wise, it was good all around. Like, you don't see... so Roman Reigns going out there, he doesn't even say much. He really doesn't. He only says, 7-8 sentences total. It seems like every time he goes out there, but when he talks, man, you listen, you pay attention, and every word is just very meticulous, and every word is just straight to the point. There was one moment I really loved here. It was when Roman asked for the mic from Paul Heyman. I think it was the second time, and you actually hear Paul Heyman tell The Miz, "Oh, this is my favorite part." When he hands Roman the microphone. So, I really liked that a lot. I don't. Did you catch that?
Yeah, but I was gonna say my other favorite part was The Miz saying, or when Roman asked him, "Can I ask you a question?" and The Miz says, "Yeah, of course you can. You're my tribal chief. This is your ring." And the Paul Heyman standing in the background just starts laughing. He's like, "You're right. Yeah, it is. This is the island of relevancy." And Roman's just like, "I like this guy."
I know. The only thing that threw me off here, and I feel like it's been this way for a little bit because the entire bloodline is so over with everyone right now. Right now, they're playing that tweener role where they're not really a heel, they're not really a face group, they're just an awesome, badass group, which I'm down for. But anytime you're going to put anyone in the ring with The Miz, you're going to get cheers. And so, it was kind of weird to see Roman as kind of the over-the-top baby face in this, even though he sucker punched The Miz, but it's The Miz. So that threw me for a loop, but I didn't care because the whole point was to just, Miz recently worked with Logan Paul. He got beat by Logan Paul. He trained with Logan Paul. They were partners before. So it was a good segue for someone to go out there that can take a punch, make it look good, do a good promo, but also had a connection with who Roman's next opponent's going to be. So it was just a nice, good spot. And I thought actually Paul Heyman was the best part of this whole thing.
Oh yeah, definitely props to Paul and props to WWE for the continuity here. Like you said,
yes.
It definitely plays into where The Miz had a connection to Logan Paul. So this was perfect. But let's go backstage and catch up with The Miz, who is in medical by now, icing his face, and Kathy Kelly is there to inform him Johnny Gargano sat down with Byron Saxton for an exclusive tell-all interview that airs later tonight. The Miz says he's a little bit more worried about getting his match with Mustafa Ali canceled right now, but if that interview airs, everyone will be looking at a defamation suit that will make Johnny Depp and Amber Heard cringe. Mustafa Ali walks in to say it's unfortunate that The Miz is trying to get the match canceled tonight because he was looking forward to competing in Texas because everything is bigger in Texas. Well, almost everything. Then he says Miz has tiny balls. Miz tells him he's going to beat him tonight with a broken jaw. Have you been to Texas, Rob?
I've never been to Texas.
Neither have I. I wonder if everything is bigger in Texas, like they say.
Might be. We'll have to go down there one day.
Well, let's give us your thoughts about this segment here about The Miz being more concerned about the match than about a tell-all.
I think I don't think Miz. I think it played perfectly for the way they revealed everything. So we'll talk about it a little bit later. But I don't think the Miz knew that Gargano actually had all the evidence and knew exactly what he was talking about. He probably thought Gargano was just bluffing the whole entire time because Miz is a narcissist, arrogant guy that doesn't think anyone has anything wrong on him. Traditional heel. And then at the same time, too, he doesn't want to have a match with Mustafa Ali. He doesn't want to have a match at all. His jaw hurts, and he's just looking to any way to get canceled because that's what a heel does. He doesn't want to go out in front of the fans. He doesn't want to do any of that. He's a very 1980s heel, and it's perfect and wonderful. So yeah, I just think he had no idea that Gargano really knew what was going on, and he was just trying to find a way to get out of his match because his jaw hurt. And so, it's literally the most 80s classic honky-tonk man type stuff.
Well, let's head to the ring for our third match of the night. Damian Priest versus Carl Anderson. Judgment Day accompany Priest, and the OC are ringside for Carl. Wasn't long in the match before you see Dominic Mysterio try to get involved and eats a right hand from Anderson. Damian Priest tried to overpower Carl during this match, but Anderson kept bulldogging back to Priest. Rhea tries to cause a distraction, and Priest hits a really nice face plant on Carl. Damian sets up for the reckoning, but Anderson backslides him into a pin for the surprise win. A brawlout ensues, and the OC has the Judgment Day down until Rhea Ripley low blows Luke Gallows for the second week in a row. Judgment Day beat down the OC, all hitting their finishers, but the best part had to be Dominic hitting the Eddie Guerrero frog splash. Rob, I'd like to see Dominic keep leaning into this Eddie thing, especially since he has Mamacita and Rhea Ripley.
Absolutely. Match-wise, it was a fine match. It was very 50-50, whereas, Carl lost last week to Balor. He had to come back and get a win against Damian Priest to kind of just make it even heading into their match against Crown Jewel. Nothing special there, so we can move on from that. But yeah, post-match, Dominic is getting better every week, man. Like, he looks so smug and he looks so arrogant, but the second he takes a shot from someone, he just cowers and hides behind Rhea Ripley or something like that, and it's so good, man. It is just so it really is Eddie Guerrero. I don't know. So I'm only a year older than you, but like Eddie Guerrero, there was a storyline where him and Chyna were together, and that was his Mamacita, and like there was a lot of times where they would be in tag matches together, or it'd be Eddie and she would be outside the ring and Eddie would get hit, and then he would immediately run away on his knees and hide behind his Mamacita because Chyna could take care of herself. And that is like completely what's happening right now. Is Dominic looks arrogant and tough, and as soon as he takes a shot, he has to go hide behind Rhea Ripley, and I love it. It's so good. So I definitely want Dominic to keep playing into that. I cannot wait for him to slim down a little bit and get a little tone. And I want to see him come out in Eddie Guerrero, like, wrestling gear. Or I want him to ride down in the lowrider to Viva La Raza. Like, all of that would just make my day. So just keep playing into it. I definitely think it was kind of a holding pattern just to get to the match this weekend before they kind of move on from there. So either way, it was good. But that post beatdown, all of that was better than the match.
Yeah, some of my favorite Eddie memories were when he was with Chyna. I think that was one of the best pairings, especially during that time.
Yes.
Right now, we'd like to take the time to say thank you to all who listen to us, and we ask you to give us a like and a subscribe, because every click helps us grow, and we can continue to bring you more content in the future. Also, we encourage you to stick around until the end and comment your favorite moments along with ours. The Gorilla and I have a bet to settle, so elbow drop that like button for us and leave us something to read later. We thank you. Now back to our program. The next thing we get to see is Omos standing with MVP, who tells us he's going to SmackDown on Friday, and he has arranged a little surprise for Braun Strowman. Nice little promo we had here from MVP as always. Always a good shot from that angle on Omos. Always standing there looking scary. What do you think he's got in store for Braun on Friday?
I'm not real sure. I don't know if like he's bringing back some of his Hurt Business people or what's going to happen here. But I did enjoy. It's honestly just a nice tease promotion to get people to watch on Friday, because Friday's show was already taped since a lot of the guys are going to be already in Saudi Arabia. So for those of you people that don't watch for spoilers or anything like that, it's a nice tease to just say, hey, this is going to happen. Here's something, a nice surprise. Be sure to tune in to see what it is. So I definitely think, again, that's a big Triple H thing, and I love that about him, is he will always do little itty-bitty things throughout the show that's going to make you want to watch the next show. And so I think that's all it was there. Couldn't tell you what it was. I'm going to go with a wild stab here and say we get let's go with a Repo Man run-in on Braun Strowman. No, not buying it. Not buying it. Repo Man's not making a comeback.
That's a better idea than what I think they're going to go, which is probably a lot more
Oh.
likely than Repo Man making his return. And that's if they do a 20-man squash match like Braun Strowman style versus 20 other jobbers, local jobbers, I'm going to close my eyes during the Omos match Crown Jewel.
What if we get? What if it's like Strowman in a gauntlet match where he defeats all these jobbers, and then the last person is Omos?
Huh.
What? Think they're going to give away that match the night before? No, there's no way.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. No, it's not hammer time. Despite his pants, you better set your alarm because it's time for Tall Tales with JBL. JBL makes his way to the ring, and after a brief history lesson, I say brief in quotations, on the state of Texas, and a blowhard rant claiming snowflakes have ruined it, he finally introduces Baron Corbin, who comes down and cuts a promo of his own, claiming the crowd is delusional, and they actually love him. The crowd boos, and he says he knows the truth. Then, like an RKO to your mental health, Rob, R-Truth comes down to the ring, dressed as a cowboy, with a toy pony and all. And after making fun of what JBL and Baron Corbin were wearing, he takes an end of days and is laid out in the ring. What are your thoughts?
I don't have thoughts on this, man. Like, it's just JBL is terrible and just doing cheap heat promos. Baron Corbin has such go away heat right now, just like JBL does. And on top of it, we get R-Truth again, which I know you enjoy R-Truth, but I don't. He's fine. But my favorite part, actually, the one part I did like, was R-Truth talking about old man yelling at clouds, like kind of thing. JBL is only like 5 or 6 years older than Truth. Like, he's really Truth is an old man. I don't think people realize that Truth is an old man. So that part was fun. But man, like I don't know if like because okay, so behind the scenes is one of those things where like Vince McMahon loves R-Truth with a passion. Thought he was just one of the funniest people. They had a great relationship. I wonder if like Triple H just keeps putting him out there because he's just like, yeah, the old man will like this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'll be real too. It's a 3-hour show, and no one on that screen is of consequence. Like, no one on that screen is like going to change, like, you know, the ratings or anything. So I think it's kind of a throwaway segment. But man, like, I've talked way too long about R-Truth right now. I should stop talking. Like, I'm just done.
Yeah, second week in a row we've gotten an R-Truth joke to where he gets introduced out of nowhere to us. So I hope we don't see it a third week in a row. I'll say that. But let's take a look backstage because we get to see Damage Control and Bayley. And Bayley is talking to Nikki Cross, who's just kind of sitting there in her own world, it seems like, and takes off. This was just real quick, and you don't even hear what's being said. But do you think this is important storytelling, Rob?
I think it's just foreshadowing right now. Like I'm not even going to speculate anything. There's never not a reason that they're doing this and that they're showing this. So this is just a stay tuned because I have no idea.
Well, while we scratch our heads, let's go to the ring, which has been decorated with pumpkins and candy and weapons for our fourth match of the night, a trick or street fight. Matt Riddle with Elias versus Otis with Chad Gable. This is a one-on-one match. Elias is just joining Riddle at ringside, and Gable is just joining Otis. When Matt and Elias make their way to the ring, the first thing we notice is Matt Riddle is dressed like Ezekiel. He's definitely got Ezekiel's clothes on. This isn't a costume, folks. These are his clothes.
It felt, honestly, at first I thought he was dressed up as like the Texas tornado. But then I was like, oh no, that is Ezekiel. Okay.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's similar.
But the next part was my favorite part.
Oh my gosh.
Because Chad Gable makes his entrance, and he's dressed in a robe, and he has a bleached blonde wig on. And he says he could have dressed as any philosopher because it would make sense. But no, he chose to go as Patrick Swayze, parodying Chip. And he introduces Otis as Chris Farley, who is parodying Dale. And it's all from the famous SNL Chip and Dale skit. The best part is this is them dancing to the ring to the Chip and Dale song. They get to the ring and the match starts, and it was just a real treat. You see what I did there, Rob? Treat.
No, I caught that one. Yeah.
Riddle starts the match on the offensive for a bit until Otis uses his girthy power to gain the upper hand, and Gable tells him, one night and one night only, and tonight's the night. And we get to see Otis do the caterpillar, and we haven't seen him do the caterpillar in a long time. Corey Graves comments on commentary that he looks like a worm from Trimmers. Riddle overtakes Otis using a kendo stick that's tossed to him by Elias. Gable gets involved, only to be kneed in the face by Elias, knocking him through a table on the outside of the ring. Otis tries to regain control, but whiffs a belly flop to daze him just enough for Elias to put a pumpkin over Otis's head. Matt Riddle then hits an RKO to the pumpkin-faced Otis for the win. And like I said before, Rob, this match was a real treat. What do you think?
I, more often than not, always hate the holiday episodes of Raw or SmackDown because of things like this, where they're going to do this over-the-top something that has to do with whatever holiday we're on. This, on the other hand, was completely 100% enjoyable. Everything about it. I liked Elias not wearing a costume and looking so mad at Riddle wearing the Ezekiel. Like, that was fun. I didn't understand at first what Gable was doing, and then when Otis came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Like, all of that, the Chip and Dale sketch, which usually WWE tries to go with a more modern reference. The fact that they went with like a 30-year-old sketch from SNL, like, just baffles me. Loved it. And then this match itself had so many fun spots, and especially Kevin Patrick had one of my favorite lines. When they put the pumpkin on Otis's head, he had a line that said something of, finally a head that actually matches that body. Loved it. And I was like, that's a great line. I don't know if that was fed to you or whatever, but that was a great line. So well done on his part. I was actually just blown away from this. It was a silly match. It was a fun match, but it was done in a nice, quick fashion. And all the spots were there for the crowd, and all the spots were there that just it made it just enjoyable the whole way through. So I loved it. I have no complaints about what happened that night. I loved it.
Well, I'm glad the gorilla likes entertainment for once, because usually that's the difference between us. Because unlike you, I always enjoy these cheesy holiday matches. And I think for once this one is actually more well done than any of them. The pumpkin spot was a little off, but again, they did make it work.
I think it's hard to take an RKO with a pumpkin on your head.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's hard to do anything with, especially a pumpkin of that size on your head.
Yeah.
But let's go backstage, Rob, because Bailey is trying to keep the cool between Damage Control, because Dakota and Io seem a little worried about their title defense.
I mean, yeah, like in theory, like I would be worried as well because they're the heels, so you always have to have that. Why should we do this on short notice? But also because it was short notice. Like they didn't have time to prepare for this match. Who cares if they'd beaten them before and they faced each other before? That match was made earlier that night. They didn't have time to prepare for it. So yeah, they should be worried and they should be annoyed.
Let's get to our fifth match of the night, which is The Miz versus Mustafa Ali. The Miz is still clenching at his jaw from being punched from Roman Reigns earlier. And despite being in no condition to compete, The Miz toys around with Mustafa, getting the best of him at the beginning of the match. Ali gets some nice offense in, and due to The Miz being afraid of taking a hit to the face, but he kept mocking The Miz. And this just caused The Miz to turn up the heat a little bit. And he ended up hitting a really devastating faceplant to Ali into the turnbuckle. But Ali starts to rally, hitting a beautiful satellite DDT and a crossbody to The Miz to the outside of the ring. Miz tosses Ali over the announce desk, then throws Ali back over the other way over the announce desk. And when The Miz has his back to the crowd, he is then grabbed from behind by none other than He Who Shall Not Be Named. The Miz managed to escape, and He Who Shall Not Be Named escapes through the crowd empty-handed. Meanwhile, Mustafa Ali is able to set up for the 450 splash for the win. 1, 2, 3. Rob, what do you think about this?
Credit to The Miz. I don't think we've really... I mean, we talk about The Miz all the time on here. We're big fans. That dude works with so many different types of talent, and every time goes out there and just alters his style a little bit to put on a great match. And this was a nice little 10-minute match, and credit to The Miz for his portion of that. B, the Dexter Lumis spot was nice. I enjoyed that. My favorite part, though, was the security guard, quote unquote, who jumped over the whole barricade. Like, dude, what? We watched Brock at SummerSlam not even jump on the barricade. This dude jumped over the barricade. Like, it was super impressive. But also, too, good for Mustafa Ali getting a win. He hasn't gotten a win in a little bit. He's been kind of always getting there, getting close. So even though it was a little bit of obviously the distraction with Lumis going on, Ali still got a solid kick, got the 450 splash, got the win, and it was good to see, especially if he is going to be a person challenging Rollins later on. So overall, a solid match. Continued the storyline with the Miz and Lumis, which I kind of hope ends soon. Try to figure that stuff out. But otherwise, yeah, no, solid match. Solid, good match.
Definitely kudos to The Miz in this match, and Ali definitely deserved this win. Like you said, it's been a while since he's had one, so glad to see him pick one up finally. As we move on to our next segment, at the end of the match between The Miz and Mustafa Ali, it did so happen to show on the Titantron that it was time for the exclusive with Johnny Gargano. But let's have a listen to what Johnny Gargano has to say. We get a 60 minutes style interview with Gargano, who tells us about knowing Dexter Lumis in NXT. It shows blurred reenactments with each character played by Johnny himself in different get-ups and wigs and disguises. But he's telling us The Miz took advantage of Dexter when Dexter lost his job. Johnny informs us that on the night of Johnny's return, he was just so happened to be backstage and overheard a conversation between The Miz and Dexter. And because it's 2022, he recorded it with his phone. Johnny plays a recording of The Miz talking to Dexter, where The Miz says he thinks people are actually buying it, and here's half of the money. Let's try something new next Monday. All this evidence points to The Miz paying Dexter to stage a series of attacks to fake The Miz having a celebrity stalker. Johnny's accusations say Miz orchestrated everything. Johnny's theory is The Miz stopped paying Dexter, thus the attack with the chair. So now Dexter is actually coming for The Miz. What are your thoughts about this, Rob?
I don't love it, but it's something, I guess. It's an interesting storyline. I don't think WWE's really done a storyline similar to this, actually, so it's kind of a new take on it. I am still trying to figure out what this Gargano character is, because he's kind of an ultimate babyface, but he just comes across as a little smug and smartass, and I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, so I'm still trying to get a grasp on kind of what it is. But he's in a feud with The Miz, so you're going to be the babyface when you're in a feud with The Miz. I do like the callback. So, referencing that he did lose his job with WWE, which is true. He was released. So I like the callback of using real life stuff with that. B, Dexter Lumis, the real man, whatever his name is a really good artist. That's a real thing. He's a very, very talented artist. And then adding on top of it, the idea that he had a family when he was in NXT. He married Indy Hartwell, was part of that. What were they? The Way, I think they're called. Where it was him and Theory. Yeah. And Indy Hartwell was part of that. And then Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell fall in love. They get married. And so, Gargano talks about having to accept that. And so I do like all the callbacks that they're doing, and that it's just a continuous storyline from prior to that. I just not 100% sure where they're going with this. I'm going to let you talk about it, because we talked about it a little bit off the air before we started, and I kind of like your idea a little bit better, because I don't have any idea where they're going. I feel like this is a Ciampa. So for me, everyone here, if you don't know this, Ciampa had surgery. So he's going to be out for about another 4-ish months, roughly, maybe a little bit longer. I think there was a storyline going with that, and they got derailed due to injury, so I don't know where they're going. I think this was a makeshift go from there, but what are your thoughts on this? Because I know we talked about it ahead of time.
Well, I don't like the fact that they did make it a little confusing. It seems like they went through this long way to explain something to us that didn't really feed us a whole lot of information besides The Miz is trying to stage a celebrity stalker, but we don't know for what reasons. For the attention from the I mean what else would it be? But the one thing I do like about this is insinuating that The Miz could be paired up with Dexter Lumis. I think that's interesting because how great would it be to see Miz TV and The Miz sitting in his chair with Dexter Lumis in the background staring off in the distance like a bodyguard or something like that. I think that would be a good angle. And I mean, where else could this go, especially if you do want to bring in Ciampa later on and do a DIY reunion? I think it would definitely make sense, even if Dexter Lumis is just basically hired by The Miz. So, not bad of an angle, just definitely confusing. I do like the 60-minute style reenactments and Gargano being each part in the reenactment. It was hilarious. But let's move on to the main event of the night. Asuka and Alexa Bliss versus Dakota Kai and Io Sky for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Bianca joins Asuka and Alexa at ringside, and Bayley is, of course, there for her girls at ringside. At the bell, Alexa Bliss lets loose, showing an aggressive offense until Io manages to tag in Dakota, and that's when Damage Control just start isolating Alexa, trading tags back and forth until Alexa finally rallies just enough to tag in Asuka, and the Empress of Tomorrow gets to work, taking control of Damage Control, setting up some nice teamwork maneuvers between her and Alexa. Asuka and Io were the stars of this match, having a good mix-up. Asuka gets the Asuka lock on Io. Bayley distracts the ref. Io taps, but the ref doesn't see it. Bianca takes out Bayley, who then gives Bianca a Bayley to belly, putting them both through a table in the production area. Meanwhile, Io and Dakota do their best, but to no avail, because Asuka and Alexis outsmart Damage Control, setting up for Alexa to hit the Twisted Bliss on Io Sky. Asuka and Alexa Bliss are our new women's tag team champions. Rob, are you happy to see some new tag team champions?
If this means the end of Damage Control coming up soon, then yes. Then I'm happy to see it. B, solid match. Seriously, like I don't think I can sit here and say I don't think we had a single bad match on Raw tonight, which is what was really refreshing about it. I really enjoyed that. This was a good way to end the show. We have new champions. Didn't really understand the pyro at the end. That was very little overkill. But but one of the things I did want to talk about, there was a different aggression about Asuka tonight. It really felt like the Asuka of old in the ring. I know we talked about it outside the ring, but I thought in the ring she felt very Asuka of old, which is very important to me because she's been one of my favorites for the last 5 to 7 years, and it was good to see that role again in her. Those kicks were on point tonight. And there was also, I never really enjoyed the scorpion kick from Dakota Kai, but she hit it perfectly tonight to where you're like, oh, that makes sense now. That's a good shot. I kind of hope these tag titles go away to different people that aren't going to be bogged down with this, but I also am just fanboying over here over the one day we finally get the Io Shirai Asuka one-on-one feud that I just dream about all the time. So we can get some of the stuff that they used to do in Stardom back in the day, something like that. Oh gosh, yes. But back to the match. It was a solid match. The table spot near the end for Bianca and Bayley. That was a nice little touch, a little bit of added drama to it as well. Just to add into their match that's going into the Saturday. So it was a nice, fun way to end Monday Night Raw, and it's a good, fun way to just move the titles to some baby faces who I hope are transitions for our next heel tag team champions who are on SmackDown.
Definitely wasn't a bad match at all, especially from my perspective. I think the first few matches we got out of Io and Dakota Kai were, we'll say, lackluster. But these last few matches that we've seen from these two. They've gotten better and better, and this match was definitely one for the highlight reel for Damage Control. I'm definitely glad to see some new champions. Like you said, it's refreshing. I think Asuka and Alexa actually are starting to mesh very well together, despite them being an odd pairing at the beginning. So I'm excited to see where they take it and where this leads to, especially with War Games coming up. Definitely going to be interesting going forward. But let's move on to the wrap-up of the night, because it's time for our favorite moments. How we do this, folks, is we have 4 tiers of favorite moments. We have near fall, which is our least favorite moment of the night. The bump, which is our favorite move or bump of the night. The showstopper, which is our favorite promo or our favorite moment. And the barn burner, which is our favorite match. So, Rob, I'll give you first pick, and we encourage the rest of you to comment your picks along with ours and help me with this bet against a gorilla and tell us who your favorites are or who you agree with. This will be the easiest $12 I'll ever make. All right, Rob, tell us, what was your near fall?
My near fall of the night was the opening match, actually. It was a Nikki Cross Bianca. It was a fine match. I just didn't like the ending too much. I just thought Nikki is too new of a re-debut character to lose the match. So, my near fall of the night tonight was the opener.
My near fall, my least favorite moment is definitely going to be the JBL. Him ripping on the towns got old in the very first promo he did 2 weeks ago. So, I'm over this. Let's get some good heat, not go away heat. And especially since it's going to end up rubbing off on Baron Corbin, who they're trying to get over, or at least make the crowd not hate in a way to where they just don't want to see him at all.
Yeah,
So
I get that.
All right, Rob. Well, go ahead and tell us your bump of the night then.
Bump of the night was it was actually in the Theory Rollins match. It was the standing blockbuster neck breaker that Theory did for a near fall on Rollins. To me, that was just easily the best bump of the night of the whole show. It was great.
I had a tough time picking because there were a few good moves in that match. And I even wanted to give it to Mustafa during his match because he took a good face plant to the turnbuckle. And, of course, the 450 splash is always impressive. But mine is actually a bump. It's not my favorite move. It's a crazy bump I noticed in the night. And it's during the Bianca-Nikki Cross match at the beginning of the night when I believe Nikki goes to take out the rest of Damage Control when they start to get involved, and she runs around the ring to take out Io and Dakota. She grabs Io by the hair on the outside of the ring and just slams her, and it looked brutal, man. Like that was.
Yes, you did.
So that was definitely the crazy bump for me that I just so happened to catch. But let's talk about the best promo of the night. Who are you going to give it to?
There weren't a lot of great promos tonight. I'm gonna just take the low hanging fruit here. It was it was Reigns and Paul Heyman. And specifically just the Paul Heyman part of just laughing and saying, "This is my favorite part," when he gets to hand the microphone over to Roman. Like just that whole duo together tonight was fantastic.
I'm going to give it to the Tribal Chief as well. I believe he deserves it, especially since it's a rare time that we get to see the Tribal Chief alone. Besides Paul Heyman, this was a Tribal Chief promo and moment that we got without Sami Zayn being the star of the program. And Tribal Chief definitely, especially him just changing tone and saying, "Ooh, I got him out there in the world working on becoming a little bit more oozy." And like you said about him earlier, whenever he speaks, you listen. So definitely giving it to the Chief for this one. What about Barn Burner? What was the best match of the night?
Theory Rollins. Let's not even question it.
I can't argue with that because that was,
Yeah.
that was definitely a good match. And second good match we've gotten out of Theory in 2 weeks in a row. So, and like I said earlier, people are behind Rollins and are chanting and singing his song during the entire match. But by the end of that match, you can hear it, that there were a few people going, "This is awesome." You know what I mean? Like that kind of feel. And it was like Theory had a good showing here. And this was one of those times where this was a match I didn't know I needed to see. All in all, best match of the night. You want to go ahead and do the plugs?
You can find us on all social media websites, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to follow us on YouTube because we upload content on there as often as we can. So youtube.com/creamofthecropwrestling. You'll be able to find us there. Give us a subscribe. Be sure to like a lot of our videos and go ahead and comment on those as well so we can start getting in contact with you guys and interacting with you a little bit more.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our time. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. Until next time, I'm Patrick, and you can follow me on Twitter at Paddy the Brain. Paddy, that's Paddy, the Brain. And this is my partner, Rob.
You can follow me at Gorilla Rob Soon.
And thank you for listening to Cream of the Crop Wrestling. Good night.
Thank you for listening to Cream of the Crop Wrestling. You can embrace the madness by finding us on Facebook at facebook.com/creamofthecropwrestling. Follow us on Twitter at Cream of the Crop W. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by typing Cream of the Crop Wrestling in the search bar. Have fun with us on TikTok at Cream of the Crop Wrestling. And you can always find full episodes of the podcast wherever podcasts are found.
Nothing means nothing, man.
Nothing means nothing. What do you mean by that?
More, I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in. But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. You know that I'm the cream of the crop. The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better. Oh yeah.